Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the first in a series of policy interviews under the Islamabad Security Dialogue. It's a great honor for us today that we're joined by the President of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, for his views on the future of Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for joining us, sir, and thank you for agreeing for the interview.
You're most welcome.
Sir, as President of Pakistan, what is your vision for the country and its future?
I think I believe not only a vision, but what we can actually see now. Pakistan has had a paradigm shift in a number of areas. For example, Pakistan suffered from corruption. All countries in the world, resources don't matter. If they suffer from corruption at the highest level, then the result is that the countries lose their direction, lose their wealth in different forms, and the world is there are examples, many examples around. In fact, there was a time when the international banking took place, when all this money was being drained from the third world to Switzerland or to you name it, in so many areas. So Pakistan is trying to come out of that era, very important. So therefore, Pakistan laid down, through the Prime Minister himself, laid down measures related to austerity. People objected to that because these are very small measures and they won't save you much. At the same time, it was a direction which was given as an attitudinal direction for people, that you must practice austerity because we are looking for loans from throughout the world. Unless we tighten our own belts, how can we ask the poor to tighten their belts, for example? Or unless we tighten our old belts, how can we go out internationally and look for funding regarding poverty alleviation or in the health sector, etc. So that corruption, austerity, then smart thinking. I think that's the change which Pakistan has seen, and in that context, let me tell you that we may be limited by resources. We may not have factories and industries, and it take decades to establish that. But an area where smart thinking has helped us is in COVID-19.
Quite so.
Remarkable change Pakistan did. They practiced initially compassion, which laid the structures in which COVID situation was handled. Compassion was the primary thing because the world was telling Mr. Imran Khan and all our advisors and all the doctors were telling him that go into a full lockdown. And he made a judgment call, and he said, and he was one of the first few people in the world who made this judgment call. He made a judgment call that we will not go into a complete lockdown. We have poor people. I had visited China in March or April, immediately after they came out of their severe episodes, and we saw that China, being a rich country now, had deep pockets to handle their population. Pakistan did not have deep pockets to handle their population. So therefore, it was a judgmental call, and with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we succeeded in that when he laid down the principle of compassion, the next step was that we cannot go for a lockdown, we went into a smart lockdown.
True.
That was the next. The third thing was that we involved our the mosques and the ulama, the religious scholars, into supporting our initiative regarding prevention, staying away from COVID-19. There was tremendous response. The fourth was the media. So what I'm saying is, in areas where smartness mattered, intellect mattered, resources was not as big an issue, Pakistan did a splendid job handling COVID-19. So in the future of Pakistan, what I'm thinking about is not only the fact that we will make brick and mortar successes as we go along, as we improve our economy, but in the intellectual sphere, IT, for example, artificial intelligence, for example. The only two articles I've written when I became the president, I used to write more than that. One was on artificial intelligence and computing as a fourth industrial revolution is coming around. This was 2018.
So, sir, my next question is
exactly
about this. Exactly this.
Okay.
Because you've launched an initiative on artificial intelligence, and you've been extremely interested in emerging technologies and their impact on Pakistan and how they can help Pakistan leapfrog in many areas. So, sir, can you explain a little bit about your initiative on artificial intelligence and how do you see it if we do, take progress in emerging technologies, we imbue those technologies, how do you see that helping us leapfrog? And what challenges do you think might come along with this?
It's exactly similar to, for example, if I were going through making a decision personally of what I do in life. There are a number of books which have come out. I think one is by Alec Rock's Jobs of the Future, I think. I looked at all these aspects. I was always very familiar with technology. You see, I wrote my second thesis, for second master's thesis in California on an Apple IIe in 1983. Wow. So I've been very familiar. I've never lost data. I've been very familiar. And I believe why I wrote my thesis on that, because to type it and then correct it, and it was much easier to come to technology. It was much better to come to technology. You can write it so many times over without wasting a paper. So as I've been looking at the future of Pakistan, in 2007, I think in Shenzhen, China, I talked about the fact that online education, and at that time there was very little online education. And I gave an example that I did my first master's from University of Michigan in 75, and I gave an example that still in Pakistan, that is true even today. There is no dental school which can match University of Michigan School of Dentistry even today. But if the lectures delivered abroad are brought in today, we will produce dentists, world-class dentists, within 6 months. Correct. So coming from that background, I believe that the fourth industrial revolution was something which is happening, and happening very fast. The speed with which it is coming, we had to jump on it. Like you said, Pakistan can catapult itself. Because brick and mortar changes happen very slowly, very gradually. The world has seen in the last, especially after COVID, that things can happen faster, much faster. So let me give you the impression, I'm very enthusiastic about it. I want the people of Pakistan. I wrote that article in 2018, and since then I believe tremendous progress has happened in Pakistan. Why? Because I just wanted to create a vibrancy in the youth, in the institutions. So everybody jumped on board. All institutions started those programs, and hardware, brick and mortar changes happen slowly. This can happen very fast. I met the Prime Minister of Japan during the enthronement ceremony, and he made a statement that if you have 100,000 software specialists today, we would like to employ them. Wow. So Pakistan doesn't think in terms of exporting our specialists today. In the 80s and 90s, we exported our best engineers, best doctors. We lost a lot. They served other societies. They served in the development of other societies. The Middle East on our workers has developed. So Pakistan, I personally think the future of Pakistan lies in the fact that the talent we create serves Pakistan's interests first and others later. But it may happen the reverse. It may happen like this: today the intellectual institutions which will absorb all these specialists in artificial intelligence, the program which I started, the presidential initiative, it can happen today that Pakistan may not absorb all of them. But these people do not have to migrate abroad. They can sit in Pakistan, serve abroad. You see, correct. A lot of my friends, when I went to study abroad, a lot of my friends migrated. I never migrated. They migrated, and they always intended to come back to Pakistan. But then now they have children, and now their children are in schools and colleges. It's difficult. So to take yourselves out from that society and come here is very difficult. So I believe Pakistan has a brilliant future. I do not exaggerate that. I believe that if we are able to jump on this bandwagon, which is faster than fast, a lot of people have no comprehension even of my words when I'm saying it's faster than fast. It does not go in linear progression. Linear is 30 steps, 30 meters. It goes into exponential progression. 30 steps in exponential progression is going 30 times around the world.
Exactly.
So the speed of this change is tremendous, and I think Pakistan will catch up to it. The future of security is related to cyber security, and I will not elaborate beyond that. But future of Pakistan's security in defense also relates to these areas now more than brick and mortar.
Right, sir. So, sir, linked to this, another key challenge that Pakistan faces today is climate change. And the Prime Minister, and through his initiative on climate change, Pakistan is becoming a global leader in tackling climate change in many ways. So, sir, how do you personally, what initiatives have you taken, if any? And how do you see, would you like to recommend how average Pakistanis can play a role in, for example, water conservation or tackling climate change?
I believe very strongly that Prime Minister Imran Khan's initiative when he was not the Prime Minister, for example, when the KP government was on, or even in life, when I was a member of the National Assembly between 2013 and 18, what I did was purchase 200,000 plants, and went around giving it to people, because I thought if the plants are put along the roads, who will take care? So I gifted these plants to people to plant in their own houses, because at least they would take care of that. I kept on meeting children, because that's where the change starts,
That's true.
Educating the children. Today, as tourism develops in Pakistan, I am partially disappointed that we are not taking care of the environment. There's tremendous pressure in our tourism areas. For example, the total population of Gilgit-Baltistan is about 1.5 million, and there are more tourists going there every year than the population of Gilgit-Baltistan. Can you imagine the pressure on the environment? But what changed with COVID was people couldn't go abroad. When they couldn't go abroad, they found their own much more beautiful territory within the country. Oh, I am so happy with that. But what I am saying is that these are all pressures on the environment also in the long run. And the plantation of trees, Prime Minister Imran Khan has picked up the 10 billion tree situation. I have been working with honeybee industry, trying to propagate that, because what is happening in climate change, that the population of insects has been tremendously devastated. People make estimations between 30 and 50% of the species of insects have been destroyed. Bees, for example, are something which is so necessary. So we are trying to promote that as far as the environment is concerned. So conservation of water, very important. Conservation of water in a national dialogue, as well as programs trying to conserve water, and individuals also, because it starts with individuals. When the Prime Minister started the austerity thing, he started personally, and then everything catches the same color. So in conservation also, I think it is important. And the history of Islam itself, the livelihood of the Prophet is full of the fact that despite the times when things were very prosperous, he was very conservative. He would stitch his own clothes, repair his own clothes, repair his own shoe. So we have a long history of conservatism and this footprint of mankind on the earth is huge, is very damaging. So, and in that conservation, we are looking also at population management. And
that's true. It's a big issue for us.
I'm the head, Prime Minister has made me the head of the population task force. And we are looking in that area, because we are also looking at maternal health, child mortality, neonatal mortality. We are looking at nutrition to prevent stunting, etc. And therefore, breastfeeding to improve the nutrition criteria in Pakistan. So we have huge tasks, but they're being grappled, they're being looked at, they're being tackled rather than talked about. So that's the difference, I think, which is Pakistan is going through.
I think, sir, one thing that you've highlighted very clearly is that now, the use of, intellectual understanding of issues and trying to grapple them in innovative ways. As an example was COVID. I think with population and child mortality, I think also you'll be applying the same approach, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So one of the areas that we talked about in the Islamabad Security Dialogue when it was inaugurated by the Prime Minister, and the Army Chief also spoke about a new vision that is centered on geoeconomics along with geostrategy. As you know, for several decades, Pakistan has been viewed abroad through a very narrow prism in some ways of geostrategic importance. But Pakistan is now, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, trying to bring forth a vision that talks about development partnerships, etc., and regional connectivity. So how important do you think a geoeconomic approach to the region and to the world is for Pakistan's growth?
I think Pakistan has learned from experience. Pakistan, the Kashmir issue was imposed on Pakistan. It is totally against the principles of division of the subcontinent which were adopted. Pakistan suffered a bad decision. Pakistan then trusted the United Nations in the 50s, all resolutions. Pakistan believed that the fresh United Nations, a new bond with a lot of hope in the United Nations after the devastation of the First and the Second World Wars, Pakistan trusted the United Nations. So the geostrategic situation was imposed on Pakistan. We had a belligerent neighbor. We had atrocities of the neighbor in Kashmir all along, all the time. And then
7 decades.
Yes, 7 decades. Then the neighbor tested a so-called peaceful atomic device. The first time something has been labeled as a peaceful atomic device in 1974, and the world went along with it.
Yeah. They ignored it.
They ignored it. They still ignore. They're still ignoring the uranium sales going on in India. Yes. 2 episodes. Can you imagine had Pakistan been there? That is where I believe the international media sometimes does not pick up on real issues, picks up on stereotype understanding of Pakistan and stereotype understanding of India. Pakistan suffered from this imposition of a security situation, security related to strategy, geostrategy, and what happened with the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, subsequently the US work in Afghanistan, previous to that Osama bin Laden's presence in Afghanistan. All this created a situation where we had 3.5 million refugees. I think when this dialogue goes out in the world, people may not be able to understand the impact of having 3.5 million refugees in a country. It's a huge impact. You
social, economic,
social, armament, Kalashnikov culture, economic, and for how long? For 30, 35 years we are still holding on to them. And imagine, this is the greatness of my country of Pakistan, that nobody ever objected on them. Nobody said they should go out. They should be forced out. Today, all those people, all those countries which instruct us on human rights in every opportunity they get, are not ready to take immigrants. You see, they allow the immigrants to die in the Mediterranean or in the Rio Grande, but they are not ready to take people into. Pakistan has done wonders to its own psyche. This builds natural character strength. Nations come up not from resources. Nations come up by intellect, by smartness and the strength of their character. I think Pakistan has done wonders. Pakistan has then defeated terrorism. Very few countries have done so.
Actually, in
have
the largest,
sacrificed for our economy to lose $130 or $100 billion because of that is a huge number.
True.
And then losing about 70,000 people. Pakistan is the only country which has prevented that. Countries have collapsed from the western border of Pakistan right up to the Atlantic, to Libya.
That's true.
Countries have collapsed. Pakistan has come through. So all the ingredients in the dish which can become a future beautiful Pakistan are there. I give an example, like in astrology they say that everything, all the stars are in position.
Aligned.
As far as Pakistan is concerned, my vision is, the indicators are available that all stars are aligned.
So sir, the last question that I would like to put to you is that you've beautifully described, a very positive and optimistic picture of where we all Pakistanis want to see our country go. So in your estimation and in your vision, where would you like us to be, say, 10 years from now?
I think 10 years from now, when I mentioned the fact that we are looking at exponential progress of Pakistan, I underline that. I believe the discussion in the G7 was on cyber defense and cyber warfare. I think Pakistan has always claimed and it has practiced defense. Even the fact when we taught India a lesson as far as their encroachment into Balakot was concerned was in defense. And we stopped and we returned the pilot to show to the world that we are not an offensive country. We don't want offense to be our main issue. We want to be defensive. So in the future, Pakistan will ensure cyber defense. Pakistan will ensure its security in those areas, also. And I strongly believe that there is no limit to the growth which Pakistan can see if it is on this wagon of tremendous change, which is the fourth industrial revolution. There is no limit. Small countries, small people become unicorns.
That's true.
It doesn't even take a decade of. If Pakistan commits itself to an issue, I think Pakistan, in the next decade, Pakistan is going to be one of the strongest countries in the world, along with our economic prosperity and as a geo-economic hub to allow for tremendous trade possibilities between Pakistan and Central Asia. The president of Tajikistan was here, and all of them are so eager because this route to Gwadar is the shortest route possible. And he was mentioning the fact that if his goods go to Moscow for export, the president of Tajikistan, it's 6,000 miles. And it took him less than the distance the time I take to travel from Karachi to Islamabad. It took him 1 hour 10 minutes to come from Tajikistan to Islamabad.
True.
So it's a short distance. Pakistan has tremendous potential in all these areas, and I believe it's an emerging power.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time and for your wonderful views and for such an optimistic and positive future for us all. Inshallah, your vision will come true.
Inshallah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
you
very much.